Welcome to She's Got This, the podcast for ambitious women who want to grow and scale their business and use the power of intentional energy direction to design their very best life. I'm your host, Christine Gallagher, award-winning business coach and mindset mentor to female entrepreneurs. If you're ready to own your brilliance while making bank, step into the absolute best version of you, and become a force for positive change in the world, you're in the right place. Let's do it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. You're listening to She's Got This. I'm Christine Gallagher, and I'm so happy that you're here. Today, I am riffing on money, and I was thinking of some of the core money memories that I used to carry around with me before I worked on a lot of my stuff around this. And I like to talk about this openly because we all have some kind of money history or money baggage. And it actually doesn't mean you need to carry it around forever. It's stuff that can be cleared. One memory I've talked about before is my mom putting her credit card in a container of water and freezing it in the freezer when I was a kid. So she would stop using it, which is hilarious because clearly she could have just let it melt pretty easily. But it was a core memory because it felt out of control, and I distinctly remember it made me really anxious. And there were also a good amount of fights in our house over money when I was a kid as well. The other thing that stuck with me was when I would go grocery shopping with my mom, and I'd always notice when she decided to get the No Frills brand of things, which told me that things were tight with money and we couldn't get the name brand. And this was back in the 80s or 90s before store brand stuff was everywhere and pretty standard. Then when I was in my 20s, there were a few times where I had to hit up my friends for money for rent and for bills, even though I had a pretty decent job at that point. And when I look back at that time, I feel like I was, quote, bad with money, and specifically that I couldn't hold on to money very well. And I remember I felt a little ashamed about that. It's funny because I ended up marrying an accountant, and soon after that, I started my business. And even though the marriage didn't last, I give him a lot of credit for teaching me a lot of the basics around handling money. And when it ended, it was actually a good opportunity to practice continuing to clean my money stuff up because it was just me on my own. But this time I was running a business, and that felt a little bit scary. This stuff happened and I was aware of it, but I didn't connect the dots around how it might still be affecting me until I actually sat down and I deliberately went through the timeline in my mind. And several years back, I knew that I had made progress because I set some really big goals for myself and I ended up making them happen. So I wanted to pay off the remaining $25,000 of the original $50,000 of my student loans before I turned 40. I wanted to have 6 months savings that was liquid, and I wanted to buy a really nice convertible all cash. And so once I did those things, it was like I was proving to myself that I could make things happen with money. So I like to talk about janky money beliefs and patterns that I had to show you that you can change them. And your money experiences may be different, but we all have things that we can look at. And this is something that I continue to work on to this day because I find it's an ongoing process. One of the biggest shifts I've made is that I know now that I can decide how money works for me, and I can create new beliefs and tell new stories that serve me a lot better. And that's something that we all are able to do. So don't forget that you get to decide how it all works for you. And when you clear out a lot of the beliefs that are unhelpful and the limiting beliefs, what happens is you create space for new beliefs to take their place. One thing to look for is anywhere you feel guilty around money or any other sort of icky feeling around money, that is usually telling you where the unhealed parts are that you can do work on. I've mentioned this in other episodes, but after a while, I started noticing that I was bored and not very happy in my business. And I realized that my lack of motivation was telling me something, and I needed to make changes or I was going to go nuts, honestly, because it was putting me in a negative spiral of emotions. But at the same time, this was what got me to do something about it. So I do try to honor my discontent because it always is showing me something. And it's totally normal. It's totally normal as a human that this stuff is going to come up. So I knew I had to work on my beliefs and create new ones. So for example, I decided to be unavailable for the belief that things have to be hard in my business and my day-to-day. And when things do start feeling hard, to me, that is a sign that I need to clear up more stuff. So I started playing with the idea that the more time I spend in a flow state with my work, the more money gets to come to me. So that's a lot different than I used to think about things, because as an achiever personality, I really had a lot tied up in this belief that money always has to be about hard work. So that was a limiting belief that I decided to flip. And yes, if you are using brute force, like that makes things happen, but I was kind of overdoing things that way, right? I was over it, and I instead wanted things to be easy. I wanted to let it be easy. I was like, you know what? I'm no longer going to feel anxious and constricted around money. I'm not available for that anymore. And I knew that feeling well, because not only did I have it, but I picked up on when clients had it as well. And I was like, okay, this is not going to do for any of us. So picking up on that energy and my own really made me feel like I wanted to be someone who helps heal and shift that, starting with myself. And I was really clear that I actually wanted to fully embody these new beliefs, not just put on an act. So right now, allowing it is the big energy, allowing myself to receive without so much resistance in the way. And there's been sort of this trajectory that I've noticed, because early on, I had to get used to making money and having it come in. And once that started feeling natural, it was then about keeping the money and spending it and having that just be normal and natural. And now it's all about being in a space of having much more than enough and becoming a match to that. And being a match just means you believe you can have what you want and that you're deserving of it, and you put your focus on being in the state of the wish fulfilled. And there's no way that your desire can't come when you're in that place. So notice where you're at with your energy. Like, do you feel you need to say yes to working with every single client with a pulse that comes along because you are in this state of scarcity? That is a really good way to be stuck with people that are not ideal instead of being a match for those people that are. Maybe you're afraid to raise your prices because you think no one will pay it, or you're always in a state of chasing. Like, are you going back and forth endlessly with people who are never going to hire you in the first place? And I always tell my clients, it's not our job to convince anyone to work with us. And one of my mentors has a saying. She says, here's my table, which is about how when you show up and you own what you know and own what you do, and you take this stance in your offers and your emails and your invitations and your posts, then all you have to do is set the table for people. And it's kind of like an invitation. Do you want to sit at my table? And it's cool if they do, and it's cool if they don't. So there's not this sort of grasping, desperate energy. So look at where you're latching onto fear. And one thing that's common is people equate money with being a bad person or a greedy person or negative things. But we forget that if you are a good person, if you are a good-hearted person, then you are going to use your money for good. And so it's not about ignoring the fears you have or suppressing the fears you have. It's okay to feel it and process it. You just don't want to get stuck there forever. And if we don't feel deserving of the thing that we want, whether that's money or anything else, then what we want actually can't come to us, because why would it? So you have to remember that you don't need to prove to anyone that you deserve it. You deserve it because you do. You're not so special that you're the one who can't have it, but everyone else gets to, okay? Something I always go back to remembering is that what you want is not an accident, that it came from somewhere. And if you want it, the way to make it happen is also here. And it is totally okay to want whatever it is that you want. So money tends to be a topic that gets wrapped up in a lot of fear. And for me, there came a certain point where it was obvious that creating a feeling of safety around it for me was really important. And also trusting myself with it and that I can handle it. And there are different ways to create that, but working on my concept of myself has been a really big part of this, and believing in myself. And listen, if you have your own business, there already had to be at least a seed of belief there. And so you can work on increasing that, because at different levels, you'll be called to believe in yourself in new ways. Affirmations are one way, but a lot of times people will say, yeah, but when I say those things to myself, I don't believe them. I still feel like I'm in a place of fear. That is just a sign that there's still work to do, and that's not a bad thing. So much of what we see out there is fear-based. And I myself had always kind of been a news junkie, but when I started working for myself, I knew I needed to cut my exposure to it way down. I still find out what I need to know, but for me, having it in my face all of the time, or even a little of the time, was actually really affecting me. So just pulling back on that alone was really helpful for my nervous system. And if you're doing the things and doing the work and creating new and different habits, know that there is usually a time lag before you start to see things shifting. So sometimes it can happen really fast, but often it's about trusting that there is movement happening in the unseen. What you're experiencing currently is really reflecting your old beliefs because you're in process. And as you create new beliefs, and especially when you impress them in your subconscious, you will start to see things changing. You'll be led to all kinds of things you would have never been led to otherwise. So opportunities start dropping in when you decide you're willing to ask for guidance and be led from a place of confident expectation. And this is why people will say the how is not your responsibility, which I don't know about you, but that to me is a huge relief because it can feel like a lot of pressure when you feel like it's all on you. So this has helped me believe that I don't have to do things that don't feel good if I don't want to. And this has allowed me to ease up on having so many have-tos in my business, which is really freeing. So there are practical things that I do, like work on flipping my beliefs and noticing where my standards are around money and continually raising them. I journal, I put myself on a mental diet when I need to. I use scripting and I read certain affirmations regularly that I keep on my notes app on my phone. And sometimes people are like, damn, how do you have time to do all this stuff? And I get it, but that kind of drives me a little crazy because it's about choices. There was so much time and energy that I used to use in being in this state of worry or doubt or expecting things to go wrong. And now I know I can stop trying to change how things are so much and instead embody the energy that the things are already changed. So when worry comes up, because I'm human, I have tools to deal with it. And now I put that time towards things that raise my vibration, like going to the gym and listening to playlists that put me in a really happy place. One thing I started doing recently is an I love myself meditation every single morning. And all of this stuff adds up. And that's what I think is the greatest thing about doing this work, because I used to hear people say, you know, it's the journey and who you become in the process, not the destination. And I'd be like, yeah, sure. But honestly, now I see that the journey you go on personally is the actual real reward. I get it now because it goes way beyond money. Money is one really nice byproduct if you want it. But what you're really doing is creating faith in yourself and belief in yourself and learning to love yourself more, which feels a lot better to me than this masculine pushing energy that we sometimes think we need to have in order to make things happen. And faith is such a huge activator. I have faith now that I can let go of money and let it circulate, knowing it will come back. I have faith that I'll figure things out and that as I grow, I'll be able to accept more help and find support. I have faith that the money will continue to come no matter what I see on the outside, and it will be in a way that's for the highest good of all. And I have faith that money is not working against me, that it's actually neutral and it's only responding to who I'm actually being. So if you do the work on changing your beliefs and your state, and on the marketing side, you know how to connect the right offer with the person who needs it, you will not ever have a problem no matter what the economy is doing. You will always have a way to call in money. I know how to make money and I know how to make money in any situation. And there's kind of a badass energy in that, right? And a lot of freedom. And the opposite of freedom for many of you is that you feel like there are things trapping you that you have to do in your business. So when you're caught up in crazy money beliefs, you feel a lot more pressure around what you have to do. When you don't have the offer that you can sell easily, then you have to send more emails. Then you have to take another marketing course. Then you have to create a new program for $1,000 because the $5,000 program didn't sell. So I see this all the time. Selling something you have to offer versus something you want to offer. And that was me. And that's not a great energy to come from. But when we do the work on our beliefs and our offers are spot on, we get a lot of freedom from the stuff that we feel we have to do. I always say nobody gets to stop doing marketing and sales completely, but we have a choice to do it more efficiently. And efficiency happens when you don't have all this mental junk holding you back around money. And it's very freeing to not have to be driven by, I got to do all this marketing and selling, and it's going to be a crap ton of work. If you instead come from a place of flow and work on changing your beliefs and how you see yourself, then everything starts to feel a lot better. And you do better work, and your clients get better results as well, because most of your results come as a result of who you are being, not how much marketing you do or work you put in. And that is a game changer. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or share it with someone else who would find it helpful. To stay connected with me, please visit she'sgotclients.com and sign up for my email list at the bottom of the page. Or feel free to share this episode on your Instagram and tag me at Christine G, and I'll repost you. I would love to share this with as many people as possible. I love you. Until next time, keep shining your light.